And now in English. Good morning.
Hello. Well, it's good. It's well into the afternoon here, Yura.
Yeah, but here's good morning and here's afternoon, and there is an afternoon, and we have Demi, as I call her, Demi Graniopteryx, my British friend, with whom we speak English from time to time, not to forget, for me in particular, where I live. I had to speak so much Russian recently because
Oh,
my
yes.
idea, my
Yeah.
campaign was concentrated around the Russian community where I wanted to get everybody to vote. And there
Hmm.
is an interesting map. I will be talking about it later on, but it
Okay.
shows kind of block by block how people voted. And there are very strange things regarding this. I'm talking about my campaign. If anybody's watching for the first time, there are some new people coming in. So my campaign finished November 8th. I am told that I shouldn't say I lost. I prefer to say I didn't win.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
showed remarkable results. They're remarkable in two particular areas. One is I almost got to 30% of the vote. It's not finished counting yet, by the way. With all the
Still.
calculators, abacus, whatever we have there, the counting crows, I guess, instead of counting votes. But uh, uh, it's still 5% not uncounted. But according to this, I have reached the level never before achieved by a Republican in this area. And I was totally shut out by radio, by TV. I didn't get what I would consider being free advertising, being like a new guy in politics, coming
Mhm.
against impossible odds. $35,000 versus $4 million. My opponent,
Ouch.
and it's yeah, but he didn't do anything. He didn't advertise at all. He's an incumbent. He just has to sit on his butt.
Hmm.
And he went to barbecue in Nevada on one day, from what I read in the news. But interestingly, there are two um, big developments, I would say. Look, multi-story buildings where mostly Russians live in Brighton Beach. And both sides, one is called Warbus houses or buildings, and the other one is called Trump Village. Still, Trump Village.
Oh,
It's
really?
built by
Yeah.
Trump family. They build a lot of buildings like this. So Warbus is red through and through, and it didn't help that his office, my opponent's office, is in the Warbus buildings. They still voted for Republicans through and through.
Hmm.
The other side of the Neptune Avenue, Trump houses, they're blue. Similar, same people live there. They're related. They go visit each other. They talk to each other all the time. But on the map, they show as blue. And I call the chairman of the Republican Party called me the other day, and he said that they still send in the votes, and there are areas like this who still keep processing votes, and God knows what's going on there. We know why we lost, why we did not win to a scale that we're supposed to be having, was all because okay.
Yeah.
So that's on to the next goals that are being established as we speak in the back of my brain.
Yeah. I was going to ask if you're going to go on to the next one. Now that people know you.
You know, I have a letter. I have to mail it. It's sealed and signed. The address is on it. It's for Harvard Library. They
Yeah.
wanted to have a button. They have a button campaign button collection over there. So they wrote to me. They want to have my campaign button in their collection. Whatever. I imagine a huge museum, and with a central, like pedestal with my button on
Hmm.
it. But this is the vanity limit. I cannot dream beyond that, in terms of vanity.
You're
Uh,
in Harvard now.
yeah, I another record that I set. I think it's a record. Every vote cost me $1.
Yeah.
$1. 35,000 people voted. Roughly $35,000 were raised. Roughly. So that's another thing that I'm very proud of, because I fought for every dollar. And I think that's such a remarkable skill of haggling and being nasty to enemies and good to friends shouldn't go to waste.
No,
To waste.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
I can imagine that the best thing about being in that sort of a situation, being in politics, it's the one time when you can walk up to total strangers and start talking to them. Any other time you'd be arrested, but in a political thing, you can, just walk up, you can start chatting, you can ask them even fairly personal questions, can't you? That must be a marvelous feeling to be able to do that.
That's the difference between our countries. I have no problem with that on a daily basis.
Oh.
I give people peace of mind. I don't yell at them, but I give and I receive. Because people teach me all the time, even when I don't want to be taught. They teach me, and I gave back to the community, so to speak. So, and when you travel, of course, we have to. You have to talk to people. You have to ask, where is this and where is that, and I have no problem approaching people. To a degree, when I was kind of communicating with a group of NYU students on film, because my daughter's friend, and we talked, and they observed me many years ago. And they said, you have to have a course in NYU on how to come to people and talk to them. And I was very upset, exhilarated. It was fun at first, but when I thought about it, I heard it. But then I thought, listen, you have to teach people to talk to each other. Just to make people meet and just share the common knowledge. And I found through this adventure that we're having right now online, it's so many like-minded people, so many nice people, so many not so like-minded and not so nice people, but still they tolerate each other. They're ready to go together in a certain common direction. And how are things with you?
Oh, fine. I'm a bit concerned about the state of the country, aren't we all? In whatever country we are. So I'm a bit concerned about that. But otherwise, I'm just doing what I'm doing. I mentioned before, I was up at the stables this morning, and there's nothing like having that sort of a relationship with animals that just keeps you literally grounded.
That's right. It's extremely. Our daughter's memories about her time in the village. She says it's the best time of her life, of her childhood for sure. But what I wanted to tell you, this story with the war in Ukraine, and
I wanted to ask you about that.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, no. I've been keeping an eye on Russia through a few sources, but one of them is a chap he did a runner to Kazakhstan. He had to get out of the way. He has a channel called Inside Russia, and he talks about his feelings about what's going on and the Russian enclave that's developed there that meets up. And I just wondered what your feelings on the situation were now.
Basically nothing changed. We learn more and more about how Democrats profiteered through through Ukraine because of this collapse of FTX. FTX, I think. This huge cryptocurrency exchange.
I don't know about that.
You never heard about it?
No, you'll have to give me an outline here.
It's the biggest financial scandal here in the United States right now.
Okay,
I am not very good with numbers right now regarding what actually transpired, but the guy, Sam Bankman-Fried, who ran this, he is like a child prodigy. He's in his 20s. And he's wearing, like, it's a common thing, I guess, now, like Fetterman John Fetterman, who won the governorship, being a senator,
Philadelphia, wasn't it?
yeah, in who won in Pennsylvania.
Oh, Pennsylvania, sorry.
Yeah. And he's also walking around in shorts and the tea. He lives in the Bahamas, and he built this behemoth of cryptocurrency trading. And he was raising money, and he was about to be bought by another behemoth called Binance, whatever it means.
What's his name?
And that his name is Sam Bankman-Fried, with a
Okay.
dash between Bankman and Fried. A young guy, pudgy, pasty, not very attractive, but it's a lot of money. That they call him Mini Madoff nowadays.
Oh, right.
So he built a
gosh.
pyramid scheme, and he
Right.
laundered a lot of money for Democrat Party by
Bankman-Fried.
Bankman-Fried, yes.
Yeah.
And he donated, and he planned to give $1 billion to Democrat causes, Democrat Party, and it all fell through. This whole scam of his got uncovered, and he's under investigation. He's still in the Bahamas. I don't know what's the extradition laws and between the countries, but he's there. He lived there on the like top floor of the big hotel with 10 of his friends or whatever, and he was doing his things. And they interviewed the people who his girlfriend is a total. You cannot say even a bimbo about her. It's like a current insult in England to being a bimbo. Yeah. So she's like a dorky. Also not we are a bit of a dorks ourselves, but
Speak for yourself.
She does. Yeah, yes. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I apologize. No, but we like to go to the core of things and to talk about details. And there's another word. We're not on the level of wonks, I would say. I hate to.
All right. So, are you saying that his girlfriend reminds you of that girlfriend in The Big Bang Theory, the autistic guy's girlfriend?
She doesn't know the numbers. She's in charge of the numbers, and she doesn't know. She says, "I don't know math. I don't deal with math."
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
sake.
And she's in charge of $20 billion. She has 20 billion because of it's a huge organization. She has this chunk of money that makes up $20 billion in cryptocurrency. I don't know if it's in dollars. It cannot be anything else, right? Because a lot of people like Warren Buffett or Elon Musk said, if it's end up in dollars, it's a hassle. It's a hustle.
Anyway, so
it fell through.
What's happening? He promised money to the Democrats.
And he gave a lot of money.
And then it turns out there was no basis to his business. It was all at the top.
Yeah, it was robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
That was the thing it was made of, and it was very nice. He sat on the same stage with the who is who of this world. His second biggest donor of the Republican Party after George Soros.
This guy,
this boy, basically, in parlance of our times, you don't get to be adult if you are under 40 years old.
So Madoff is still in jail, isn't he?
No, Madoff passed away.
He did?
Madoff's dead. Yeah, he died in jail. Yes.
Right.
And I have an interesting little tidbit. I know somebody who's in the business of optical devices, the glasses, by Central Park, and the Madoff family used to come there and pay very generously for the glasses. It costs a fortune in certain quarters of the city, so money is not the issue. And when he got in trouble, so to speak, when he got arrested, his wife, who was not arrested, she came to pick up the glasses, and the owner was walking behind all the salespeople and saying, "Take only cash, don't take checks. Take cash. Don't take checks."
Oh, that's mean. That's really mean.
That's New York City for you.
That's really mean. I mean, you can give him pair of glasses if he's ending up in
For
town.
decades, they were kind of the most welcome customers that know there. But
Oh,
that's how the world turns. If you depend on selling $1,000 pair of glasses, you have to.
that's sort of disgusting. I think that's disgusting.
That's why I
I mean,
saw. I
how
will
many
tell
pairs?
you this
Yeah.
to give you a
Any,
flavor.
yeah.
A flavor.
Okay, so this guy is sort of you think, or it has turned out that he's a sort of Madoff type thing then?
Yeah, he's all over the news here, and it's a blow, I think, as much as.
So what's this got to do with Ukraine?
Oh, he was raising cryptocurrency for Ukraine, and he was funneling money to Ukraine, cryptocurrency, untraceable, and a lot of people supported Ukraine financially. We raised money here on this program for Ukraine, but it's pretty transparent. There's no crypto involved. And we dealt with people who were reporting to us. There was some point when I sent money to Central Bank of Ukraine. I mean, I recommended people to send money to Central Bank of Ukraine because it was all over Brooklyn. The QR code and the address, how to do it, explanation.
Do you know? Just a minute. Can I interrupt? Though you know what people were doing here. You know what Airbnb is, don't you?
Of course.
So a lot of people were booking Airbnb places
for the refugees.
No. Like there were Airbnb places in Kyiv owned by private houses, not by companies, by private people who were just renting out a room at the back or something. So we were booking Airbnb with no intention of going. But that was one way of getting money there.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were doing that.
Wow. That I was not thinking about. No, finally, there was a man who's from Colorado. I spoke about him here. He's a medical scientist. And he got hooked on the whole conflict, on the whole war. He was going back and forth all the time. He put a lot of his own money in it, and he was sending videos, and we supported him. That was our last kind of leg as we did the fundraising systematically. And so he was taking money with one hand for Ukraine, and with the other hand, this guy, the Sam Bankman. No, I'm talking about the Sam Bankman, not to be confused with I think Steve Cohn is his name. This fellow who's in Ukraine now. But Sam Bankman was taking money with one hand for Ukraine, and with the other hand, he was giving money to his Democrat friends. And to me, it looks like pretty much like his uplines operation, like George Soros's operation, who is supporting Democrat causes and Democrat criminals here in all positions in this country. And this is how it was basically a money laundering mechanism for Democrat Party. So
that's terrible. The people were donating to Ukraine, and it was ending up in Hillary Clinton's pocket.
Yeah, and not just her. There's the people. That's a tough competition. Who's more disgusting in today's Democrat Party? But the counting is still on here. And on top of this counting, after the election night of November 8th, where we sat in a small theater, we got, I think, 10 pies of pizza, large pies of every variety, made by a wonderful Dino, Prince Pizza on Avenue U and Coney Island Avenue. He himself is a Macedonian.
Okay.
And I caught him speaking a perfect Italian, of course, with two ladies who were speaking very solid Italian, but they were from Ukraine. They were refugees from Ukraine. We are saturated with people who are here, flooded with people from Ukraine. And they, of course, at a loss. And I believe a lot of them will go back to Ukraine when when the war is kind of in a stage that would guarantee their safety to some extent. but we have a lot of people here, and of course they changed, by the way, the landscape of this elections for me in particular, because Ukrainians and a lot of the Jews who live in Brooklyn and who came from Ukraine and who loved the memories about Odessa and Kiev and Lviv, and they were. Nevertheless, they talk about their love for this, and they talk about the anti-Semitism in Ukraine. There was a traditional; it was kind of everybody knew about it. It was classic example, but things changed. Things changed, and when war broke out, those same people went to support, like, to the hilt, to support, to give them money, buy time, pay for the events on Times Square to support Ukraine. And there was like this 180 degrees in their attitude, maybe not exactly 180, but there was huge support. And those people thought, and they think, that when the Republicans come to Congress, when they come to power back, because that's how things are used to be in the United States, they will betray Ukraine. They will give it to Putin. And I was in a
the
position. Republicans will do it. Trump will hand Ukraine to Putin.
Oh, really? Do you think that will happen, or is that just what people think will happen?
Listen, this is their thinking. Their thinking. I'm talking about this. This was the thing that I was fighting with. I went to a Ukrainian church, Greek church, that in some hours works for Ukrainians, and I was speaking there. And I told them straight, you want a short version of it? I had no time to go into like a lot of vocabulary. I said, if you want to, the Congress is becoming Republican. If you need a friend who is pro-Ukraine, who will defend Ukraine, who will explain Ukraine, who will explain Russia, you got to vote Republican. You got to vote for me.
Yeah.
That's it. If you don't want friends there, okay. Yeah, that's your decision. I'm telling you.
I can understand that thinking. You see, I've speculated in at least one of my videos. I speculated that maybe Biden was so ready to help Ukraine because everybody in the Ukrainian government knew where the bodies were buried. And, it did occur to me that might be, you can do the right things for the wrong reasons. And I mean, in Britain, this government, the Conservative government, is extremely, it always has been very committed to Ukraine. As a matter of fact, when the Russians were already rattling sabers and stuff like that a couple of years ago, Boris Johnson was out in Europe talking to leaders, state leaders, trying to get them to understand that this probably was going to end in a war. He knew this 2 years ago. And he spent a lot of time trying to bring Europe together on this. They weren't all that ready to listen to him, unfortunately, but Britain was ready, and we were ready with training and supply, basic supplies from almost from the beginning of Boris Johnson's start as a prime minister. So I myself feel quite committed to Ukraine and to, and I think I'm completely against what Russia did. But I could see how America could swing the other way. This is a different feeling. There's always been a feeling in America that, well, we don't have to be involved in this. A lot of people because I make occasional videos in which I support Ukraine and say Putin's a murderous, genocidal, I'm not going to use the swear word in case it takes you off the air. And I get a lot of people writing in, and mostly Americans, I think, who talk about how Ukraine's the most corrupt country in the world, and we shouldn't be supporting it, and Putin's an okay guy, and that sort of thing. And it actually gave me a bit of a surprise. But
Yeah.
I can see how there is a wave of that in America, so I can understand the fear.
You know, in the West, people know, unfortunately, very little about the machine of propaganda machine in Russia.
Mm.
And I was calling. I didn't have a moment to do it, and I don't see in the foreseeable future that I would be able to do it. But just to compile the clips by a Russian speaker, what they saying about the world, what they say about Great
Yeah.
Britain, what they say about the United States, what they say about Ukraine, about everybody else, about the Jews.
Mm.
Uh, on Russian television, and we're talking about the commercial, not commercial, but the government state television channels, and people get nothing but propaganda over there. And the level of hatred, the level of, I'm not talking even about the operation online, all the trolls, all the people who come to my streams. I have fun with them. I say, bring your friends. Why did you come alone? Yesterday, some guy showed up. I said, bring your friends. And once I raised like about 15, 18 entities. I don't know. It's one either extremely productive troll on the government payroll, or it's like 15 other people. But they were really working hard to kind of debase all the conversation here to bring it to the lowest common denominator. But
Mm-hmm.
it was fun, and I kind of see how it's happening. So that's one thing. They totally under the like Third Reich spell with all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Z
Yeah. Yeah.
letter, and they're fascinated by all this uniform and the next thing will be they already have the textbooks ready to show that there is a different DNA in Russians.
Really?
Yeah. There was
I hadn't heard that one.
so
Okay.
that's what I was
Okay.
talking about. You don't know, people don't know
No. 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 I
the
hadn't heard of
level,
that.
and it came like I don't know what to compare it with because it's like the doors opened, like the gates opened. It just came out. It's not even in eruption. It's in like volcano eruption. Is just immediate blast of hatred for the rest of the world. People used to write things about Europe, about England, about the United States, how they traveled, how they loved it. Boom, in a wink, 180. Hatred, hatred, hatred. Nothing is good in Europe. Nothing is good in the world. We are the best. And people sit in the West, in the States and and in Europe and in Great Britain, and they think, oh, this would be illogical for Russians to bomb Ukraine out of existence. If they want to conquer it, they need the plans. They need all the industries. If they want to have it. Listen, those people, the whole of modern Russian history and the entire Russian history consists of irrational moves. That's why Russia is such in a place where it is right now. When the first sanctions were announced, and in 2014 after they annexed Crimea,
Yeah.
what was the first move by Putin's government? To destroy all the food imported from the countries that were joined the sanctions, and they made it very public, and they showed the bulldozers going over oranges and cheese and things like everyday Russians, as they call them. They would have it like enjoying it hand over feasts, and they live to eat those things. They live to get some Roquefort, to get some Swiss cheese. They live this life of luxury, beautifully packaged cheeses
Mm-hmm.
and butters and whatnot, and fruit, exotic fruit from all over the world. And they showing them on channel one on television how they destroy all of it just because it came from a country that supported sanctions. And you talk about logics. Why did they hit this Korean airplane in 1980 that
Yeah,
led
wasn't
to
that a
or
mistake?
84?
But the way I heard about it was just a mistake. They didn't do that deliberately, did they?
It was long ago. I cannot. No, the deliberate is. Was it a mistake to destroy all the produce?
No, definitely not. But that's a different thing.
No, you can't. There's
Yeah,
a chain of command. There's a chain of command to launch a missile at the airliner that is obviously. They just crossed the border. They were lost. This Korean, South Korean plane. They were lost. It was not a spy operation or anything.
No.
Well, so I don't buy this accidental things. Same thing was this
really?
Malaysian airliner that was hit over the border during the Donetsk Donbass beginning of the operation.
I think that might be what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that's again. It's there's a chain of command. There's not a single person as they hit, like they use AK-47 to shoot at the helicopters in Ukraine, and sometimes they get lucky. Sometimes they down them with hand weapons and with automatic weapons. But this particular case, Russia is an irrational player. That they tactics. There's no strategy in developing the country. They see an opportunity and they go into that. They just put sand in the gearbox and they watch if it sticks, if it stops the machine. That makes, the West, and the West is not using logic, and the West is using a lot of lies. I just read an article this morning on the Gateway Pundit by Wayne Allen Reed, I think the last name. Wayne Allen Root.
Not Freed, then.
No, not Freed. No.
The Gateway Pundit.
The Gateway Pundit, yeah. And he says, whatever you look at, what of the things that our government is telling us, everything is a lie. Everything. They open the mouth, and it's a lie. They lie about inflation. They lie about security. They lie about the war. They lie about the politics. They lie about the elections. Everything, every piece of it is a lie. I don't know if it's the case in Great Britain, but in the United States, unfortunately, on the level of White House, and they were talking about January 6th. Yesterday, they were interrogating.
Hang on, just a minute. I just looked up the Gateway Pundit here, and I got Wikipedia. Yeah,
it's a right-wing extremist, whatever they say about
full of fake news. That's what it says.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right, so, okay, carry on.
So that's our thing, yeah. That's No, I'm just saying that they had informants on January 6th. There were two groups. One was British roots, by the way, called Proud Boys, and the other one, and the other one was called the Oath Keepers. And the Oath Keepers, it turned out, as per the New York Times, the Oath Keepers had 20 FBI informants. I don't know how many members were there. Maybe there was like 21 members. But 20 members of Oath Keepers were FBI informants undercover. And the Proud Boys, which is kind of a smaller group, had 8 FBI informants. So the FBI knew about their plans well before January 6th. And they did nothing to stop it.
So that's there was a senator quizzing the head of the FBI, and he was saying, and I didn't understand I just saw a clip of it, and he was asking him, were there FBI people dressed as MAGA supporters inside the Capitol?
Well before the actual.
He said that. That's the first I'd heard of it. It sounded a bit weird to me. And so this was what was going on.
Yeah, we have to resort to the opinion of New York Times, because our side was yelling from the rooftops about it all this time. But now, as of yesterday or day before that, and of course after the elections, of course.
But how did it come out in the first place? I mean, the FBI is semi-secret, isn't it? So how did it come out?
I think one explanation. I don't know. I didn't think about the controlled leak, but there's no sense. It's a serious undermining of Chris Wray's position, the FBI chief. as of right now, because he cannot answer any question. He says it's an investigation in progress. I cannot comment on the ongoing
Yeah, yeah,
investigation.
yeah.
It didn't stop him from commenting on Trump investigation, when the Russian collusion, the Christopher Steele, all this blah blah blah.
Yeah, yeah,
But the fact is that these people, they are, the reasonable thing for me is that there is a certain, not revival, but the opportunity for journalists to stand out, and you cannot deny people this desire to do a good job wherever they are. So once in a blue moon, once twice a day, a broken clock is right. So they
yeah,
they they
yeah.
took they probably their competition had this information as well. Maybe
Mhm.
they learned that New York Post is going to publish something like that. But although they published about it, they wrote about it already. So it's a bigger bomb to me than even this Fried Bankman story, FTX. So it's just a minefield nowadays. Informationally, it's a minefield, and Donald Trump added to it by announcing his run in 2024
He just
yesterday.
announced it, didn't he?
Yeah, I
This
enjoyed his
morning.
speech. I watched it live last night. It was, and I even put the tail piece of it on my webcast yesterday live, as he was announcing that he'll make America great again. He came up with a long and beautiful list, and he indicated with his hands how
Yeah.
beautiful America will be. So, so we know exactly.
Well, in no way.
I support him wholeheartedly. I just admire the man. Seriously, not a single solitary, as Joe Biden would say, single solitary person would do it
Yeah,
again. To go to the degree that I went through this election process, to me it was a joyride. To be honest with you, a lot of work, which I liked every bit of it,
yeah.
basically. But for him, being under fire, under all sorts of scrutinies, investigations, insults, and also adding to it, a recent dust up was around DeSantis's situation, where a lot of press is on both sides is trying to kind of provoke public opinion this
Mhm.
way or the other without really any substance. So I give names to people. I call you Demi. You like to call people names too, I guess, starting with yourself. So what's wrong with that? It's not an insult. It's not saying that he's a like scumbag, dirtbag. The English
Yeah.
language is very rich on those things. He didn't insult him. He just say Ron sanctimonious. So what? So what? So what?
So I wonder if he's going to, if it would turn out that he'd have DeSantis as his
Vice
Veep.
president.
Hmm.
It could happen. I don't think Ted Cruz also said that he may be
Oh,
interested.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's kind of they're all good where they are.
yeah.
They're all good where they are. Trump is good where he is. Ron DeSantis is good where he is. Let Ted Cruz take care of Texas. Let him.
My mother says, or used to say,
Yeah,
that when you sneeze, when somebody's saying something, it means it's the truth.
that's true. That's an all Russian belief as well.
Oh, really? It's
Yeah,
Yorkshire. Obviously, it's leaked over to Yorkshire.
yeah. You have long hands,
Yeah.
arms. Listen,
It's interesting. I believe that I saw another tweet this morning
Mhm.
in which somebody said the Republicans have the House, so goodbye Pelosi. Is that
Yeah,
right?
it looks like it will be true. President Trump announced yesterday that we have the House. We're missing one vote for the absolute majority.
What does that
There,
mean?
it means that Republicans, if they vote as a single bloc, we will always be winning every issue.
Yeah.
But among Republicans, there are disgusting characters. Same thing in the
I
Senate.
believe so. Yes.
In the Senate, we have Mitt Romney. How is he a Republican? He's a piece of dirt in my book. He's always against
I've heard some disparaging things. Isn't he the one that was supposed to have the dog on the roof or something?
He did have a dog on the roof.
That's right, and that was the reason he couldn't be
presidential candidate. Moving car.
Yeah,
there was this when he ran against Obama, his second term, Obama's second term.
Yeah.
And I was for Romney at the time, and I was for McCain at the time. It was my beginning with understanding and willing to understand what's going on in the American politics. And it was fun to watch at first, and then it got deeper, as you can see. But Mitt Romney is not a real Republican. He's a total child of establishment, and just like this Fetterman is a son of a rich real estate developer who was he basically bought this town where he was a mayor of, and he made a youth operation over there that propelled him politically, and that was it. And he was there was a lot of what they call loopholes in financial regulations here that allowed him to. He showed where he lives. This video, you can see it on YouTube, where he lives in this Braddock, PA, little town, and it's a building of a indoor car dealership. And you can imagine the size of it, and he lives on the second floor of some such.
Oh, I see. So the ground floor is the dealership.
No. The dealership was all indoors. With his apartment, I don't know how many rooms he has there. It's like the whole floor. I don't know. Could be 1,000 square feet. That's the apartment. He has the sofa in one corner, and then he gets on the in a car and drives to another corner of the same floor and has breakfast there. So and he's as articulate before the stroke as he's articulate after the stroke. And
really? He wasn't much good before that either, was he? Because I watched 2 videos, just short clips of him talking, and it was embarrassing.
Yeah. You look at him before,
and Americans voted. I mean, there are 2 people with mental disabilities that I know that have been voted for, and there's a dead guy who got voted in as well, didn't he?
So there's no limit. There's
what
zombies.
What is?
What is wrong with you people?
Well, what's going on with the voters? Why do they do this?
With dead people, it's simpler. It's just they could not find a replacement on a short notice because people die, and they died pretty shortly before that.
Yeah.
And from what I read about it, I didn't know much. I do not know much about it. It was never a subject of my special investigation. But the alternative was so disgusting. So they managed to keep him on the rolls, and
so
people
by
voted
voting him in, then they could force another election.
Yeah, they did, and then they did a special election.
Right. Well, actually, that makes sense then. Yes.
Yeah, but it's still made us a laughing stock of the world. People don't read past the second paragraph. The Americans voted for a dead person, for a dead candidate, dead one. So zombie prosper, that type of headlines. But with Fetterman, I wonder why nobody goes into into explaining, to me at least. They keep saying that his wife is a Brazilian, I think, and she's bisexual. And how somebody is married to bisexual? Do they have a third member of the family? That we don't know about. It's just must be a very fascinating page in the news cycle.
But nobody's talking about it. I haven't heard any
unless John Fetterman himself is bisexual. Then it makes sense.
What people do in their bedrooms is of no interest to me, really.
I know, but they're people. We're people. Yeah. Why not? Listen, the whole lump on his neck is none of our business. He is if he had a stroke, he recovered, and he would be a perfect speaker after that and thinker.
Mhm.
Who cares? Listen, if he were in a wheelchair, we have a lot of people who are in a wheelchair who won elections.
Yeah, it's that's not the point. It's whether they actually make sense that's the point, isn't
We need
it?
them to use the upper part of the body.
Yeah, yeah,
The
that's
rest
right.
is kind of irrelevant, but that's where things go wrong. But Biden's condition is, of course, it's something else. It's just it's deteriorating visibly. Whatever American medication they use on him, it's working less and less, and the only thing they can elicit in him is those 40-minute speeches filled with rage, filled with semi-Nazis that he's able to read off the teleprompter.
Yeah, yeah.
Now he cannot operate in a like ad hoc situation where when he's asked questions, and if he doesn't hear, he doesn't listen. And yesterday they turned to like a special connection with the top leaders of the world, Sunak to the left of him, the Trudeau to the right, and they sit at the table and they don't say anything. And he cannot say anything. He said no to some inane question. The gaggle of reporters is yelling at them incessantly, and they just sit there. And that's the leaders. That's the leaders of the world. In Bali, and he didn't show up for the dinner, they said, but a rumor has it that there was a special kind of confab regarding the Ukraine situation. And again, they're now talking about this rocket that the Ukrainian supposedly rocket they straight into Poland. I don't think that Ukrainians.
Yeah, well, at first it was supposed to be Russia. So now do they say it may have been Ukraine?
Even Biden, in his manner, he said, I don't want to say anything about nothing, but yeah, it's premature to talk about it. Nobody should say anything about it, but I'll say it anyway. It looks like the trajectory. That's the leader of free world.
Do we know any more about it?
They show images online of some missile. Everything should be on the satellite feed that they have. We've seen it in the movies. It must be true. The satellites see at least 50
but
satellites.
They do. They can see in incredible detail.
No question about it. And they have eyes on the ground. They have eyes in the trees. They have a lot of information of it. But somehow they're ready to trigger what they call the Article 4. That's how they call it. Chapter 4.
No. It's not
Chapter 5 is the attack on the member. Chapter 4 is like one step less than that. It's a threat to a member of NATO. And all of a sudden, they talk about the charter, NATO's charter, and the laws and stuff like that. Whereas nobody was talking about the Budapest Agreement in the beginning, where Ukraine gave away their right to own nuclear weapons.
Yeah, that's right.
And everybody guaranteed their safety. And nobody talked about anything. Said, oh, no, it was not a law. It was just a piece of paper. Come on. Get serious. And now there's Stoltenberg and this and that, and we'll see how it goes. I don't think that it will be a major step in escalation of this conflict, but
I do hope not.
Definitely
it seems to me that whoever, wherever that missile came from, it was definitely a mistake.
Yeah, I'm careful with the word definitely. I mean, there's a chance that, again, is thinking of
Russia wouldn't have bombed Poland. I can't believe it deliberately, but I can believe that they missed, that they misfired, that the programming was wrong in whatever guidance system it had, that they didn't have the proper satellite link. I can believe that. And same with Ukraine. They could have simply misfired. They're close enough, aren't they, to Poland anyway?
And I send my condolences if anybody in Poland is listening. I can send my condolences.
That's awfully tragic.
Two poor souls.
Just standing there doing nothing, and suddenly.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
But you see, it's thinking of the way that Russia operates, this illogical way of inciting conflicts, sand in the gearbox and stuff like that, uh, putting water or oil on fire, kerosene on fire, whatever the metaphor is. That's what they do. That's how they're very empirical in their politics. They have no long range idea, as you can
Don't,
see by
don't you
Putin's
think
years.
so? Don't you think so? Do you really think that? I thought that the Russians were constantly thinking of the long range idea
Yeah,
of
they're
a
thinking.
greater
It
Russia.
doesn't mean it's happening. I mean, there is no mechanism. All of a sudden, as I said, so many occasions, on February 21st, the country turned 180 degrees. It was like the extreme of hatred. I didn't expect that much of a hatred coming from Russia
24th.
on the 24th of February,
Yeah, yeah,
when they attacked, and only got worse. And of course, there were people who were saying, like always, there are people that are saying that things are not what they seem, and they're bad people, and you kind of do not listen much about it to that. But eventually, you realize that this is what happened. It was all prepared. It couldn't happen overnight. It was all well prepared, and there were people who were brainwashed enough. And I have to admit that there should have been a plan in place to get so many brainwashed people, so many of docile, slavish folks to go and fight and to do what the whole world is seeing now, and all this war crimes that they committed in Ukraine. It's the same people who walked the streets and dreamed of going to Florence, or actually been to Milan or traveled to London, and all those places. And think about it: those people turned on a dime, and they went to kill and maim and destroy in Ukraine. Whatever Ukraine is its own country. They
yeah,
want to be corrupt. They want to be like
yeah,
this. They
yeah,
want
yeah,
to
yeah. That's what
sleep with
my
Soros.
contention.
They want to.
Russia invaded them. Whatever you think of anybody in Ukraine, they're a country, and Russia just walked in the door.
Yeah.
There's just no excuse for it.
I'm very bored myself by this metaphor, but the fire, the house you live next to is on fire, and it's not time to check somebody's, credit history or family relations, or if they even beat their wives or wife beats the husband. We don't care. We need to put out the fire.
Yeah,
and that's the attitude. And what I'm afraid of is that the situation in Ukraine is turning for the United States, and is turning into another Iraq, another machine that would launder money. Because how come that it was taken in a week, Baghdad, and the rest of it lasted for 20 years?
Mm-hmm.
How is it possible? What changed? When did it change?
That's
How come
interesting.
they try to rob? They burglarize the museums. Iraq is the cradle of civilization.
Mm-hmm.
One of the major places with most rich cultural heritage over there.
Yeah.
Babylon alone, Mesopotamia, all those things. And people went to rob the museums, and nobody was stopping them. Eventually, they stopped them. They caught most of them, but it was total mess. So there are so many questions, and I don't want Ukraine to become this endless war that America unfortunately gets involved into.
Do you know, I hadn't thought of it like that. I mean, I imagined that it would be over. Surely there's a difference between Iraq and Ukraine. First of all, Ukraine itself is... the point about Iraq is that it looks like a country, but it's just a place where there are lots of warring tribes, even in times of peace.
See, Biden's idea, and I remember him proposing it early in the war. He said that, and I'm talking about the Iraq war, where he said that it should be broken into parts. Iraq shouldn't be a country,
it's not.
They're
it's
relatively
not,
a new country, by the way. Iraq is
very new. I think they were formed just
somewhere in the 40s, I think.
Yes, that's
like that.
right.
Yeah, they were named a country.
And they were given a king. He was about 14 years old, and he was assassinated, wasn't he? There was a coup or something.
Shah of Iraq, of Iran.
No,
Don't
no.
remember. Cannot.
Iraq, there
Iran.
was
Yeah.
a king, a young, I mean, set up like an English type constitutional monarch, but I think the army took over, and they murdered the boy and his family or something. I have very vague memories
I
of hearing
also have
about
I have a little knowledge about the history of.
But yeah,
Iraq.
most of those countries there, they were divided up by British and French colonialists, and they just drew lines, and those places are still tribal.
Yeah,
And
but they
so,
will keep worrying. That's the same thing, because they broke the bigger part, like Persia. They broke it into two countries, say Iraq and Iran, just for the sake of an example, just for an example. And then they broke them into smaller parts, but it doesn't remove the spirit of conquering each other. Some of it is more prosperous.
no,
Some
but
of it.
that's why it's endless war, because it would always be endless war. It would be war even if the Americans weren't there. The Americans just, and the British just got themselves tangled up into it. But I don't think in Ukraine it's the same situation, because they're not tribal in that way.
They're not tribal, but it is just one. The longer the war goes, the more ways people discover to profiteer off of it.
Yeah, yes, that's for sure.
If we have the biggest and the most powerful military, whatever happens in the military, the American military today, we still have it. We still spend a lot of money on this, and we expect them to act. They're not supposed to be like a mission creep where they open a new department, like Department of Homeland Security that they opened when Al Qaeda was on the horizon. Now they reported that we destroyed Al Qaeda. Do we close the Department of Homeland Security? No.
No, these things
We
never
find
go
them. We find them another other things to do, like spy on the citizens or U.S. citizens or whoever is trying to exercise the freedom of speech or other constitutional rights.
Yeah.
So that's how it is, unfortunately. And the longer it goes, the longer the wrong thing goes, the longer Biden is in power, the longer Democrats are in power, the lies are just multiplying. I was stunned by this piece by Wayne Allen Root, where he says everything is a lie. Everything. I'm just even starting to talk like a Biden, like whispering in the microphone.
What I really can't understand how, like Biden, actually, I've heard a few, and they're Democrats, I have to say, that they say flat out lies, just complete flat out lies, and yet they don't expect howls of outrage from anybody. And when people say, "Oh, this is a lie," they go, "Oh, yeah, well, let's draw a line under that and move on." It's a strange sort of culture.
It's a new to us, and we are used to certain responsibility, certain reply from the government. That is, you listen, to become a member of the FBI, to become the head of the FBI, you have to have a certain career path. You cannot be the stupidest, hammer in the toolbox, right?
No,
you have to have certain
be very bright. Yeah.
gray matter, right?
Yeah.
So he's there, Christopher Wray is sitting there, and he's giving answers like he's talking to not to even to a child, to a stool, if you can talk to a stool. But it's just we cannot comment. We cannot comment. Why are you here?
I saw that. He said, "I can't talk about that," and I can't. When that senator it was a senator, wasn't it?
Yeah, like a bold, powerful guy. And he did what I say they all should do. He's asking a question and he wants an answer, preferably yes or no. That's it. Don't let them. They shouldn't be like grandstanding. Our senators, our congressmen, they shouldn't be grandstanding, and these guys should be facing the questions that they should answer there and then. But they unfortunately, this guy is kind of stonewalling and weaseling out of this situation. Someone gave him this response. We cannot comment on the ongoing investigation, so don't comment. Just tell us yes or no.
Hmm.
That's not a comment. Ah, such a beautiful day today. Is it still good in
Yeah,
England?
yeah. Weather's nice.
Yeah, we're feeling like the cold is coming onto us, but we have our means to fight cold.
Hmm.
Demi, thank you so very much for taking time, and I enjoyed our conversation as usual.
That was lovely. It's
But
lovely to see you, Uri.
yeah, it was a fine trip. Was the selection? Trust me, and I
Yeah,
recommend it to everybody. If you feel
yeah,
like it and you feel like you have extra energy that you would like to, I wouldn't say spend, but invest.
yeah,
You're investing your energy. It will get back to you from so many people who write to me and call me and say,
hmm,
"Come to us and talk to our community."
yeah,
Even how many people in the black community are interested of
yeah,
continuing working with me?
yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
But
So
that's happening. I mean, that's a trend that's progressing, isn't it?
yeah,
When a
it's a
lot of
triple.
black people realise that they're being done over by the Democrats, used as
This and also they're in a situation where no Republican would ever came to talk to them.
hmm,
They just see a person. They say, no, no. I mean, we know that there are Republicans, but nobody said, I'm a Republican. I came to talk to you. I want you to vote Republican. They
yeah,
never had this conversation in life. It's like absolutely virgin land. You know, you go there and people just, oh, wow,
yeah,
I'll do that. The
yeah,
response was like, they look at the card and they say, oh, this is you. I say, yeah. Oh, you're what? A Democrat? Because I approached them. I came to them. No, I'm not a Democrat. I'm a Republican. Are you for Trump? Yes. I'm wearing a red cap and I have Make America Great Again on it. I'll vote
yeah,
for you.
yeah.
That's
Good.
the end of
Well,
conversation.
30% of the votes, did you say? That's not bad at
Almost,
all.
almost. They're still counting, and they haven't finished the areas, from what I know, where I expect a strong showing of my side people.
Hmm. Well, let me know how the finish is.
Listen, I'll be digesting it and analyzing it for a while, and I'll have a program in Russian. I'll first have it in Russian where I will look at the map. Hopefully tomorrow morning I'll demonstrate the map, how it was and what
Hmm.
changed with this election, because we have some statistics that kind of interesting to look into. I don't believe 100%, but it to finish with a fun tidbit, I went to work because I have to make some money eventually to continue my lavish lifestyle. So I was
Yeah.
asked to come to Baltimore to a conference to translate for a sizable chunk of people
Hmm.
from English into Russian, and they booked a room for me. And during my campaign, I was looking at the website that is called 538.com, just spelled out 538, not the
Yeah.
number. It's some prodigy, Nate Silver, statistician, analyst, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He managed to sell his website to ABC, so it's an
Hmm.
official source. And I was watching the dynamics there. How did their algorithm changed my chances? And my chances were floating between top line, say it was like 44, I think, or 42%, and the bottom was at 11, 12. So
Hmm.
I showed more or less in the middle, but 538 was my daily routine, sometimes more than once. And guess the number of the room that I got in Baltimore Marriott.
538.
538.
Just a
So
shot in the dark.
yeah, yeah. So here's the thing. So that's a sign. You got to take signs, be able to take signs.
Hmm.
Thank you so much, Demi, and we see each other pretty soon. I hope.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for having me. Bye,
Sure.
Yuri.
My pleasure.